Welcome to the S&D 50 Week 15 edition. This is a show, if you're new here or if you're a regular, where we break down how college football should be ranked 1 through 136 based on what happens on the field alone. No bias polls, no bias college football playoff committees, none of that. Just what all 136 teams do on the field every minute of every game. Spencer, welcome in. How are you? What are you drinking tonight?
I am doing great, Drew. I'm drinking bubbly lime flavor tonight. It's a classic soda water choice, one of my favorites.
Love it. Jacob, welcome in. How are you? What are you drinking?
Thank you, Andrew, for welcoming me in. I'm doing great. One of the best parts of my week is listening to Spencer's drink of choice. And bubbly lime is a solid one. It's very solid. I just have good old classic lukewarm, room temperature, I should say, water.
Not even ice today.
No ice. Came from a room temperature water storage container, not even out of the fridge. So,
Are you still detoxing from Thanksgiving?
It's just being a simple man tonight.
Hey, we finally ran out of turkey leftovers today, so that's an achievement in my house. I cooked a 20-pound bird, so there was a lot to go through.
And we have a guest. Ben, welcome back. We had you on many weeks ago. It's great to have you here. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, can't complain. Good to be back. I came on when the regular season started, and now I can fully form all the opinions because I saw everything else happening.
We love it. We're excited to have everyone here. We are assembled and ready to rock. The Blue Smurf dude left us the nicest comment this week. Shout out to you, the Blue Smurf dude. Here is your show. Thank you so much to every single one of you who like our videos, subscribe to our channel. If you're new, subscribe. Takes us 16 to 20 hours a week to make this show. We don't do this full time. We enjoy it a lot. Subscribe. And thank you to all of our Patreon members.
And we plan on doing this year-round, so if you're interested in some off-season content surrounding the transfer portal and how that affects teams' preseason ratings, Patreon is going to be the place where we'll have some of those exclusives.
Let's get into it. Week 14 games in review. We had 20, count them, 20 games that the model said these games should be competitive. And you know what? 17 for 20, my friends. 17 for 20. Not too shabby. What we're looking for here is a competitive rating over 70, right, Spencer?
Yeah, and the competitive rating is basically a measure of how competitive the game was over the whole 60 minutes. So interestingly, you're going to see some scores on here from games that were competitive and games that were not competitive, where the rating might be higher or lower, even though the scores look very similar. And that's basically just a measure of, hey, that team that won, did they pull away late? Did they hold that lead early? Was it like a 1 or a 2 score game for most of the time until the very end? That's really what's going to be determining this competitive rating score here. So anything above a 70, we've identified as competitive, which a good way of thinking of that is it basically means that the team that won either won a super close game, or if they pulled away late.
And some of the most shocking results to me, starting here on this one, Kentucky and Louisville. The rating differential between Louisville and Kentucky was really, really small. And to see a result like 41-0, that's the type of thing that gets you fired, correct?
Absolutely. Which I heard that they're targeting Oregon's OC, Will Stein, who, if I'm not mistaken, is a Louisville man, played for Louisville. And now Kentucky is looking to dig into the rivals' pool of alumni to find their next head coach.
And he does have some SEC roots too, hooked up with Dan Lanning at Alabama under Nick Saban. So knows the conference, knows the state.
Guys, that's literally official as of 35 minutes ago.
No way. Look at that. Breaking news on a podcast that won't even air for a day.
They're finalizing the head coaching deal.
We are recording Monday, December 1st at 9:43 p.m. Eastern. Ben, thanks for breaking the news. So once again, the model's right. You lose to your rival 41-0 when it should be competitive. You might be fired and there may be a new coach hired within 48 hours. We will get to Delaware. I am leaving Delaware alone for a minute. Arkansas State once again wins in a thriller. Is anyone shocked? I'm not shocked. The Butch Jones Red Wolves do not go without a fight, start to finish. Jacksonville State, That's a big win. Walk-off field goal, and the collapse of Southern Miss is complete. They end the season on a 3-game slide when they were essentially a lock for the Sun Belt West. Doesn't get in the title game. What a shame.
And as sad as that is, it's still a great turnaround from a 1-win season last year.
Vanderbilt wins convincingly. Wisconsin's run comes to an end. They get beat by Minnesota. TCU crushes Cincinnati. Not competitive. That's shocking. Sicko game of the week hits Michigan State, Maryland. This game was not competitive really in the second quarter. Fireworks in the third and fourth quarter. We get a high competitive rating. We finish the year undefeated in identifying the sicko game of the week, which is the game with the closest S&D competitive rating. Doomsday. Duke.
Ooh, let's save
We
that.
will get to them. We'll get to them in the 50, but
we said
Duke.
it. We said it was going to happen.
We talked about it last week. It delivers. This brings our season total to 73% in identifying competitive games. And here are the teams out of the S&D 50 heading into week 15. These were teams that were in the S&D 50 in week 14. Northwestern, 6-6. Some good losses, some good wins, a lot to build on for Northwestern.
Yeah, that win against Penn State actually has aged really well. Penn State, after firing James Franklin, has, turned things around against maybe the middle to lower part of the conference, but they have looked really good in their last few games. So, Northwestern's still a good team. They're going to go bowling, not a team I'd want to face right now, especially if I'm another 6-6 team. Northwestern is probably one of the tougher draws in that tier.
South Carolina at number 62, down 17 spots. This was almost the sicko game of the week. South Carolina looked pretty bad against Clemson. Dabo ends the year on a high. Shane ends the year on a low. What do we think of South Carolina?
Do we think that Shane Beamer's really regretting not going for the Virginia Tech job at this point?
I think he's okay with it. Let's be honest. Let's look at their schedule. It's the SEC where you kind of get the scheduling luck. Granted, it's the SEC, so no one has good luck, but they faced a lot of good teams.
Starting next year, the SEC's bumping back up to a 9-game conference schedule.
As they should. Holy cow.
So
Yeah,
scheduling, the SEC scheduling those Citadel teams in late November might all start to come to an end.
Who knows what happens to Clemson, South Carolina going forward?
UTSA at 60. We thought they were fraudulent last week. Turns out, might be true. They lose to Army, but more importantly, Jacob, the home win streak of UTSA is snapped.
I think it's at 24 games. The home conference win streak was at 24 games in a row of being unbeaten as they pump in that crowd noise through the speakers. But Army got it done, broke the curse. UTSA still going bowling, though.
Yeah, I feel like this was a bit of a reversion to the mean almost. That they jumped up on a really strong and unexpected win, and then reality sets back in, and this is probably about where they should be. This feels more right.
For the record, they were my first job when I got EA College Football 25, so I do have a soft spot for the Roadrunners.
That's great. At number 59, San Diego State. We will get to the New Mexico atrocity, folks, I promise, but we will just talk about this game. Back and forth to the very end.
Double overtime, if I'm not mistaken.
They got so close to winning the Mountain West, and now it all slips from their hands right at the end.
Boy, did it slip away. It looked like, honestly, at the home stretch, it looked like these two teams, New Mexico and San Diego State, were the top two teams in the conference, and it slipped away from the both of them.
Wake Forest at 54. Lose to Duke. Still finish the year 8-4. A scary team in the ACC. Wake Forest has a better record than Duke, right?
Most teams have a better record than Duke.
Part of that is who you beat and who you lost to. I think Duke, we give them a lot of flack, but we'll talk more about them later. I don't think they're as bad as people want to make them out to be.
They're 7-5.
And they pushed my UConn Huskies to the brink.
Cincinnati at 51. This is another fall from grace, similar to San Diego State. The Reddit boards, what are they saying about Cincinnati today?
The Satterfield slide is real, and they want him sliding out of Cincinnati. That's what the Reddit boards are saying.
Honorable mentions, week 15. These are teams that did not make the 50 that we still want to talk about. Jacob, at 118, Delaware. In their first FBS season, they finished 6-6.
Model does not respect my Blue Hens. Like we talk about my Yukon Huskies as well. Delaware beat them in overtime. And here they are at 118. But most importantly, Delaware is going bowling in their first year in the FBS. This win was big time because only 80 teams qualified for bowl games, and there's 82 bowl game spots. So Delaware normally wouldn't qualify because it's their first year. They get to slide on in one of those vacant spots because not enough teams reach the 6-win barrier. Delaware was trying to earn some style points to prove their point to the committee or the bowl committees that they deserve to go bowling. And so with about 40 seconds left in the game, up 58-31, they called a timeout, stopped the clock to kick a field goal. It wasn't even that they had to. They literally called a timeout in order to make it happen. Kicked a field goal, made it at the tub. In fact, they scored 3 times in the final 5 minutes of the game. And UTEP's head coach did not like that. Scotty Walden went on record calling Delaware classless. Kind of gave Delaware's head coach a little bit of a shoulder check in the post handshake meetup at midfield. And so UTEP pretty angry about it. UTEP, though, is probably pretty angry about their season, only getting 2 wins all year. But Delaware Blue Hens, congratulations. Year 1 going bowling.
At 116, Kent State, the Golden Flashes, they win 5 games this year. It was at Northern Illinois. And where is Northern Illinois going next season, Jacob?
The Mountain West.
So Kent State gives Northern Illinois the boot out of the MAC in style. 5 wins, 1 win in the last 2 seasons prior.
This was their first time winning at Northern Illinois since 1966.
Goodness gracious. That's a stat.
I mean, I thought the biggest stat of the game was going to be the fact that Kent State, quintupled their win total from a year ago?
At number 96, Missouri State, another FBS team in their first year as an FBS team, finishes 7-5. They were competitive all year in Conference USA.
Okay, so I dove into a little bit of what they do. There's no stat that really indicates anything. So I looked at their schedule. If you look at the teams they beat, the average win total was 4.4. The teams they lost to, the average win total was 8.2. The joy of being consistent is beating the teams you're supposed to, and they did that, and they're now bowl eligible in their first year.
Now, Jacob, is this going to be a similar situation where Missouri State's going to find an invite because there's not enough teams, or did Delaware?
They both did.
They both. The football gods smiled upon Delaware and Missouri State because there was only 2 spots open, and what do you know? 2 teams in their first year qualify for a bowl game.
At number 63, up 15 spots, Texas State finishes the year 6-6. And where is Texas State going next year, Jacob?
The Pac-12.
On their way out of the Sun Belt, they leave South Alabama in the dust. Texas State played spoiler this year. They played a lot of competitive games. I wanted to give them a shout out here because they were the fun team to watch in the Sun Belt.
Okay, and there's more than just that reason to give them a shout out. I don't think we realize the magnitude or the acceleration this program has taken. Texas State, until 3 years ago, had not even gone to a bowl game. And then they hired their new head coach, J.G. Kinney, comes to town, takes them to bowl eligibility, and then here they are in their 3rd year with him, 3 bowl games, first time ever. And they've started a new tradition where they jump in the San Marcos River whenever they become bowl eligible. So that went down after the South Alabama win. And now they're in the Pac-12. Like, what in the blazes? Where did Texas State come from?
And last but not least, at number 57, Washington State. They beat Oregon State and share the Pac-12 title.
It's because they split it. It was a home and home. So Oregon State took the first one, and then Washington State the second one.
Washington State's original plan when the Pac-12 went away was they formed this alliance with the Mountain West, but then after a year of that alliance where they played Mountain West teams, they ended up poaching half of their teams away. And so then the Mountain West said, well, we're not helping you next year. Go out and create your own schedule. So this whole schedule that Washington State put together was literally pulled out of nowhere. But here they hire a new head coach, didn't really have a schedule, didn't really have a conference. Now it's looking like more stability is coming. It looks like they have their head coach of the future. So we'll see what happens with this Washington State team in the Pac-12.
Shout out to Oregon State proving conference games matter. They were 2-10, and one of their wins was against Washington State.
Talking about wins, what about those close losses? I mean, they had back-to-back road games against Ole Miss and Virginia that they lost by a combined 6 points?
5 points. 21-24, 20-22.
I mean, neither Virginia would still be in the playoff conversation just from ACC play, but Ole Miss with a loss to Washington State would not be a playoff team.
They beat Toledo, who we'll see in a minute. They beat Louisiana Tech, who was once a darling in the S&D 50. And the James Madison close loss by 4. It's pretty good. It's a great year for Washington State.
Yet they never cracked the 50.
No, 57's as close as they get.
Now, if they win the bowl, we do put out a final 50 after bowls have all been played. So they could be in it.
If you've made it this far in the video, please subscribe. If you're interested in teams 1 through 136, subscribe to our Patreon. All right, it's time to unveil the Week 15 top 50 in the S&D 50. At number 50, Georgia Tech. This week, number 24 in the AP poll. Right off the bat, first atrocity. How is Georgia Tech still in the AP poll? I don't understand. They lose by 7 to Georgia, but we've talked about it, how Georgia doesn't run away with it. They just beat you fair and square. Brent Key has a great year at Georgia Tech. They finished 9-3, but once again, Ben, I think there are a lot of scheduling breaks for Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech, I mean, they just kind of lost it at the end. It's tough to do what they did. I mean, you feel bad for Haynes King, if we're being honest. He kind of deserved a little bit better there.
A great quarterback on a mediocre team who played a really soft schedule, and that's why they have 9 wins. Now,
a great college quarterback.
Yeah, the loss to Georgia was, I mean, impressive as far as losses go. It really showed Georgia Tech's chops, but they still ended up losing that game.
The fact Boston College scored 34 points on them kind of shows that they were running out of fuel.
Yep, and we had questions about that in the comments. How is Georgia Tech so low? Because they didn't play well at the end of the year, minute by minute. Boston College is a great data point.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that, how that algorithm works?
That's the core of what our model is evaluating. It's not how the box score looks at the end of the game, but how you perform throughout the game. So, it looks at, effectively, it's a way of measuring game control, right? It looks at how you're doing over the course of the entire game, whether you are dominating or pulling away late, or if it's a comeback win or a comfortable win or a close loss or a blowout. And over each quarter of the game, over each minute of the game, it looks at how many points you score, how many points your opponent scores, all of these details, and then compiles a rating that gets adjusted based on what each team's individual rating going into the game was, and those adjustments get added in. You get rating adjustments layered on based on how your past opponents do, and it spits out a final rating. We don't do what the AP voters do and just say, oh, this team lost, drop 4 spots or drop 7 spots, or, oh, well, I guess I can't, knock them too bad because they lost to Georgia. But what about all the other teams with really impressive wins that are more deserving of that spot? It's almost like they don't even give a thought to teams that haven't been ranked until they actually really need to because someone lost badly and they're like, well, the spot opened up. Now I have to go find a team to fill it. This looks at all of the teams, all of the time. And it's a pretty complicated net of ratings and interconnectedness because of that past opponent thing, but it spits out a really concise number rating for each team. And we just stack those up, and that's how we get the 50.
So basically, as opposed to playing the result of what happens when the clock strikes 0, you're looking at it all throughout. And that's why Georgia Tech, yes, they have had a good year. They just haven't really, they played with their food, to use the wording that I always do.
Yeah. Or played with their food feels like how you would describe a good team who doesn't put teams away that they should. Georgia Tech felt like they were scrambling all the time. That literally in the case of Haynes King, right? Georgia Tech this year felt a lot to me like a couple of Big 12 teams last year in Colorado and BYU, who both finished the regular season 10-2, ended up getting broken out of their conference title game and played in a bowl game. Both of those teams had a lot of really close games that they ended up winning that were against really medium teams. I mean, Oklahoma State was bad last year and almost beat both of them, I think. And so Georgia Tech just felt a lot like a classic Big 12 team that barely gets by on a medium schedule.
At number 49, back in the S&D 50, Boise State beats Utah State. And they barely beat Utah
game.
State. Oh, back and forth. Some questionable calls by Utah State there at the end by Bronco Mendenhall to go for it on 4th down.
Honestly, I'm bitter. I'm bitter about the Mountain West Conference title game. Boise is in it, and but they got the win against Utah State, put themselves in the tiebreaker position, and have the tiebreakers go their way. Now, on the other hand, I think Bronco Mendenhall, on his questionable calls to go for it on 4th down in this game, especially there was one with about 7 minutes left in the game. They had a chip shot field goal, decided to go for it on 4th down. Do not get it. They were up by 5 at the point. A field goal would have put them up by 8. So kind of a little bit more of a security blanket, forcing the touchdown and 2-point conversion to just tie it. But Bronco wanted to just put them away there. They got stopped. I'm thinking Bronco just didn't want to see New Mexico in the conference championship game, since that's where he bailed from. And had he beat Boise State, New Mexico would have been in.
Hosting
Conspiracies.
I love a good conspiracy. We've got that right off the bat. At number 48, first MAC team in the 50 this season, Toledo. They beat Central Michigan, who we've been high on all year, 21-3, convincing fashion. Toledo not playing for the MAC.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the weird tiebreakers when we get to the conference championship previews, but Toledo finished really strong, just did not control their fate at the end of the day in the MAC and missed out on the title game. But they'll be a tough team to play at a bowl. I'm excited to see where they land. Hopefully they get a good Power 4 opponent and can make a game of it.
And it's funny because they beat Miami, Ohio, the team that got the tiebreaker over them. And the team that they would be playing, Western Michigan, who finished atop the MAC, they lost to by 1 point in a great game earlier this year. So we're missing out on a great rematch by Toledo not being in the MAC championship.
And there's a theme that we're going to see tonight, and it starts right here with Boise State and Toledo. The theme is that teams playing in their conference championship are not the highest rated or ranked team in the S&D 50. At number 47, Illinois started the year at number 2 in the S&D 50. They finish at number 47.
Just goes to show that keeping your starters does not translate to winning all your games.
No, it does not.
I will always remember listening to the first SND show, week 0, and Andrew and Spencer talking about the big orange elephant in the room, Illinois. Were they like top 5 or something
Top
like
2.
that?
That was just the
number
two of
2.
us at the very beginning, wasn't it?
I'll never forget that phrase, the big orange elephant in the room. Anyways, finishing the season 47. Respectable, but not a big orange elephant.
At number 46, our second team in the MAC joins the S&D 50 for the first time at the end here, Western Michigan. They beat Eastern Michigan on that horrible gray field that makes my eyes hurt.
Oh my gosh, miserable. I hated every minute of that.
Western Michigan has an amazing season. They look like the team to beat in the MAC. They are in the MAC title game.
It's been 9 years since they've last won the MAC, which guess who was their head coach back then?
PJ Fleck.
PJ Fleck, the year they went undefeated, beat 2 Big Ten teams during the regular season, went to the Cotton Bowl that year. So
Rode that boat.
The Broncos are back, baby.
At number 45, NC State. They're back in the S&D 50. They crush Bill Belichick's hopes of winning a game against a team in North Carolina. And NC State finishes the year on a high.
And it is confirmed that Dave Duran is coming back for a 14th season. He's only had 2 losing seasons since coming to NC State.
Impressive.
At number 44, say it with me, plank, 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 plank. Kennesaw State wins in double overtime against Liberty, locks up their spot in the Conference USA title game.
5 planks? Are you kidding me? Kennesaw State's been in the top 50 for 5 weeks.
Plank,
Not in a row,
plank,
not in a
plank,
row.
plank,
But
plank,
still,
plank.
5 weeks. Kennesaw State.
Yeah, they keep going where I have to make the plank smaller to keep them all fitting.
The only program that's running a true dual QB system, and it's working.
It's working. And they're in the Conference USA title game, rematch against Jacksonville State. We will get to that matchup, but man, love to see them at 44. At number 43, they're back in the S&D 50. I'm sure you hear the excitement in my voice. Houston beats Baylor.
And Houston didn't have a really tough Big 12 schedule, but it's funny, a 9-3 Big 12 team might be enough for them to end up ranked in the college football playoffs final rankings, because they were in a couple weeks ago. I think 4 or 5 of the bottom 6 or 7 teams lost, and so they're going to be looking for 9-win, maybe 8-win Power 4 teams to fill those slots. We could see Houston at like 25 this week for some reason, despite the fact there are several 8-win Big 12 teams far better than Houston at 9-3.
At number 42, oh my gosh, Jacob. Cal does it again, does the unthinkable. SMU at 42, ACC title hopes dashed. Cal clutch again in the final minutes of a game.
The Calgorithm wreaking chaos all over the ACC.
Cal could have gone undefeated. I want to have a Cal minute. Gosh, dang.
Should we get back on that kick?
Yes, if you would have told me,
Cal undefeated.
does Cal go 12-0, or do they beat Louisville on the road? And do they beat SMU to finish the year? I'd have told you it's more likely they go 12-0. But no, we get the opposite. What happened? What happened to SMU, Ben?
Couldn't tell you. The ACC is such a debacle. I watched not a single ACC game this year.
Well, I watched this one, and the collapse was real. SMU gets the lead. They leave too much time on the clock. Cal goes down. SMU has a chance at the end, and they shank it wide right to tie the game.
They could have gone and run another play to set up a closer field goal. I get they were out of timeouts, but they had 8 full seconds left on the clock. You can run an out route on a play like that. You can at least try to get 5 more yards. The fact that they kicked it with 8 seconds left shocked me while I was watching that game live. That was insane.
Here's the lovely thing about college football. It's mostly about having your Super Bowl and the big game. SMU got their win against Miami. So they had their big moment and everything. And now it's like, cool, they lost to Cal, but no one's going to remember that. They're going bowling.
Ended up in that, 5-way tie for second, and then lost on tiebreakers to somehow Duke. It's a mess.
Yes, ended up in that debauchery.
At number 41, the UConn Huskies coming off a bye this week, because they might be the only team on a bye this week as they finished up their regular season a week before everyone else. They move up 3 spots due to other teams losing, but here they are on a head coaching search. Jim Mora gets plucked away by Colorado State. Interesting move, by the way, going over to Colorado State, but there are some solid candidates on the horizon for UConn, and there is talk about them upping their NIL money to about $2 million a year.
Yeah, I that whole Jim Mora to Colorado State didn't make sense to me. Is Colorado State going to the Pac-12?
Yeah, they are.
So I guess it's it's not a P5 conference anymore. They're definitely a G6 is what people are going to start calling them, but is that a big step up from a UConn brand that even as an independent, like, carries some weight. You've got donors, even if most of them are in basketball. I mean, look at Indiana, what a basketball school can do, right? That was kind of a mystifying coaching move for me.
I
I
actually
mean,
think it makes a lot of sense. You're going to somewhere where you can at least have stability. You know who you're going to play for 7 games out of the year. UConn, you're kind of not getting anyone's best shot. You're just throwing things out every week. You can build actual stuff. And also, I think Jim Mora at this point, he's done a lot of random stuff. He just wants to go build things. He kind of maxed out at UConn. But also, who's going to coach UConn now? Is it going to be like Gino? They're going to have him do women's basketball and football?
We can bring Paige Beckers back. She might be great at it.
Paige Buckets. She honestly could do anything.
Right. Connecticut's going bowling, Jacob?
yes, because of the bowl eligible team shortage, even though they do not have a connection to a bowl game, they will get an invite.
Wait. Now go.
All right, Jacob talked about it. So obviously UConn's going to be losing their coach. And we probably saw this with Penn State, saw this with Virginia Tech, all these teams that lost their coaches before they stopped playing games. How does that impact the model, if at all?
Doesn't. If it doesn't deal with on-field play, the model doesn't consider it. Your quarterback gets injured, we don't care. For all we know, your backup's just as good and is going to put out the same kind of performance. Your coach leaves, we don't care, you know?
And this is not predictive.
Penn State is higher rated now by a lot than they were when James Franklin got fired. Like, this is just a on-field performance rating model. You know, if we were in charge of the college football playoff, Florida State would have been in. That's all I'll say.
Valid. And again, resume based, not predictive. So again, we're not taking into account injuries, coaching changes, none of that. So great question, Ben. Uh-oh. They're back. The Duke Blue Devils at 7-5 are back.
To be fair, they were just outside it last week. They were at 51.
Yep, and we highlighted them and said, what if they beat Wake Forest? Well, here they are at 40, and with a chance to make it very difficult for the College Football Playoff Committee.
Duke is objectively hilarious that they are at this. I mean, it says more about the ACC than about Duke that this is even a position they're in.
I mean, we're going to talk about like all the ACC specific stuff in the conference preview, but here's my playoff question here. If Duke wins, does the committee let them in as the 12th seed?
Yes, because the committee is a bunch of ADs and they want the money that they have tied to it. And I think Duke and the ACC, they do not want to upset them and force that conference to dissolve. They'd rather leave an unranked James Madison, who they will say hasn't played anyone, versus Duke. I think there's politics and it is not as pure and altruistic as we want it to be.
Just wrong.
Dang, I worked on that take, Jacob, and saying it's just wrong off the top.
Hey.
No, I'm saying it's I agree with your take. It's wrong that it's that way.
I've been persuaded to that take as well. I think Duke might make it as a 12 seed. They're not going to be ranked this week in the college football playoffs. And if James Madison loses in an upset to Troy, that really makes the committee's decision quite a bit easier. But curious.
I think they might be ranked 25. The committee might make them 25 just to give them an out.
That would be the most rigged thing I'd ever see.
It's too obvious. That's blatantly rigging it.
Yeah, if Duke gets ranked 25 by the College Football Playoff Committee, that's too obvious.
Jacob, as a G5 sicko, how happy are you that the College Football Playoff Committee has to show their hand on how either biased or not biased this is?
Oh, I love this. But I also know right after this year ends, if Duke wins the ACC, if James Madison gets in, the G5 gets 2 bids in, I know right when the season ends, immediately they're changing the rules to
100%.
make sure that never happens again. Just
100%.
like what they did last year with Boise State getting a bye. They changed the rules immediately following that because we cannot let a G5 get the bye, be a top 4 seed. Oh.
Okay, how funny is that the 2 doomsday scenarios, everyone was like, this would never happen with the college football playoff. A G5 get a home or a bye in the first year, They're like, that will never happen. It happens the first year. And then they're like, oh, a G5 is never going to be left out. Now it's legitimately on the table.
Oh, I'm
That's
so
just
pumped.
objectively hilarious.
No, you're so right. And I am here for it. And it's what makes this sport the greatest sport to watch.
Agreed.
Because it's just the personification of Murphy's Law.
100%. At number 39, down 10 spots, Washington. They lose to Oregon. Ben, it's hard to win at Washington. Oregon does it. We'll save our Oregon minute for later. But Washington in this game just couldn't get it going.
I mean, rivalry games are always a big deal. And I think it's, the Ducks just came ready. Sometimes you just look over at the sideline, you see a green duck staring at you, and that's terrifying. You're just not going to be able to match up. It's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Sometimes ducks are more terrifying than dogs. At number 38, LSU. They lose in a heartbreaker to Oklahoma. But guess what? No one's talking about that this week when it comes to LSU. They're
Why,
only
did something
talking about
happen?
Lane Kiffin. Who knows? I don't know. Last I heard, Lane Kiffin was going to take the job, but who knows? I'm just kidding. Yes, it's all about Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. My gosh, all we hear about is Lane Kiffin. But this LSU team, guys, 7-5, a lot like Illinois in the fact that it just feels like there was so much here and we never really got to see it come together.
Why is LSU such a desirable job? And if
Look
they're
up Tyrann Mathieu
taxpayers,
highlights and you'll understand.
okay, I grew up
Bad
watching that guy, but what if their taxpayers are the one paying Brian Kelly's buyout? That to me tells me they don't have the donors
Nope,
or
that's correct.
and so I'm like, what the heck? And then they come up with this massive contract for Lane Kiffin as well.
$13 million
I'm
a
like,
year.
are the taxpayers
12 and a
paying
half.
Lane Kiffin too? Like, is that how LSU just makes it work? It's just all tax money?
It just means more in the SEC. Who cares about funding public education when you got to pay 2 coaches?
To be fair, every public institution's coach is paid by taxpayer dollars. As I love to say, money is fungible, which for our non-nerds out there just means it doesn't matter if taxpayers technically pay for it. It's the big donors putting millions of dollars into the athletic department. All the money gets mixed into a pot. So you could say it's taxpayers paying that, but it's really not. It's the athletic department donations they can get. And LSU is going to get mega donor dollars with Lane Kiffin there. There's old money down there, and they love LSU football.
Go Tigers. At number 37, Penn State. They finished quite high, all things considered.
Let's talk about the 24 hours they've had. Every single top candidate coach that they had at the list, gone. Just hired to random other schools. They lost the guy that was linked to them to UCLA. That's kind of embarrassing. All because the key agent hates them for how they fired James Franklin. So pretty bad. They're losing all of their big recruits for the most part. To, right now, Virginia Tech and other places. They have 6 guys in their class. Congrats, Penn State. You're bowl eligible. That's really fun and dandy and everything. They got to figure something out here soon because the transfer portal opens in a month. And if they don't have a coach, they're going to fall down the S&D 50 for next year simply because there'll be no continuity.
You're absolutely right, Ben. They have a good roster. This is a good team.
Yeah, it's a good team, but they don't have a coach next year, then they're going to be a junior college.
And Ben, isn't that why they fired James Franklin so early so that they could be first on the hot coaching list? And here they are, other teams all firing and hiring after them if they don't get Sataki.
Yeah. What do they do? What do you do if you're Penn
Man,
State?
I'll tell you,
You
who
know,
they get.
I haven't even thought of Temple's head coach, but you're 100% right. He's
I
from
said it 5 weeks
Pennsylvania.
ago. He's
You did.
perfect.
You did. I forgot. I completely forgot about him, but that's a sneaky good hire right there.
You know who I think they go after? Manny Diaz, Duke's head coach.
Clemson at 36. They beat South Carolina. They finish ahead of Duke. They have the same record as Duke, and yet they're not playing for the ACC title.
No, it's because they have more conference losses. Sorry, they didn't even make it to the tiebreaker. Yeah, Clemson, they fell short of expectations, but they're not a bad team by any stretch. It's just that Dabo doesn't really, unless he does something on his staff to adjust to the portal world, I just think Clemson is going to go from a consistent 10 and 11 win team to like a 7 to 9 win team.
At number 35, Kansas State. This feels right. They're up 3 spots. They've had so many heartbreaks this season. 35 feels right.
And this is our highest rated 6-6 team. And they are, I would say, probably the best 6-6 team. I mean, they had really good wins on that hot streak. They had a mediocre showing against Texas Tech, as pretty much everyone has. And then they almost took down Utah on the road. Really should have won. Should have decided to go up by 13, went for 2, had it picked off and run back the other way, ended up being only up by 10, and then Utah somehow scored 2 touchdowns, and Kansas State had to go for another touchdown. Had they kicked the point after, they could have gone for a field goal to win it.
Crucial turnovers by Avery Johnson really toasted this team in their losses. He threw some interceptions down the stretch or fumbles that just killed them and killed their momentum. One of their wins and losses goes as Avery Johnson's security with the ball go.
At number 34, Arizona State. This feels like a similar story because you lose Sam Leavitt for the year and you just end the season wondering what could have been.
Yeah, we'll talk a little more about this, I think, when we get to Arizona, but that was a good duel in the desert. Fun to watch. I mean, Jeff Sims wasn't bad, but
he's not Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, he's not Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt is a quarterback who can guide a medium good team to a win over a top 5 team, because that's Sam Leavitt, right? When everything's clicking for Arizona State, they are deadly. But you need Sam Leavitt to make that work, and they just didn't have it.
And apparently Sam Leavitt has unofficially entered the transfer portal.
Whoa. That's crazy. He's going to be a hot commodity. That'll be fun to track. At number 33, UNLV. They beat Nevada convincingly, Jacob, and they tiebreaker their way into the Mountain West title game.
They do not feel like a 10-2 team to me. I just have not believed in them all year. They have so many close wins.
So
many close wins. This was
Air
one
Force,
of their few.
Utah State, Idaho State,
Miami, Ohio.
I'll tell you, the committee, I think, is a little bit worried about Duke getting in. I think they should just embrace the fact that a G5 team could get in, but don't make it weird and just start ranking the best G5 teams. And I think you put in UNLV in the CFP rankings this week at 25. Because no one knows that. No one but us and other sickos know about the quality of their 10 wins and 2 losses. It's a 10-2 team who's going to beat a brand name in Boise State if they win. Like, then you have contingency plans if James Madison loses, right? Like, because if right now it feels like the only way Duke gets in is if James Madison loses, or unless it's totally rigged and Duke gets ranked this week. I think they should just embrace the G5 and start putting some 9 and 10 win contenders in the rankings this week.
Why can't we just do it right and just put the right G5 teams in? I don't understand. We have so many more to go in this show, and we're only at 33, but whatever. You're right. It's what they'll do, but it's not what they should do. Oh, wait, there's another one. At number 32, Old Dominion, a team that will not play for the Sun Belt title, but should, because they are the second highest rated Sun Belt team in the S&D 50 to finish the season.
I'm reminded that divisions are bad and divisions are stupid, and I'm glad we don't have divisions because of this.
Disagree. Tiebreakers are bad. Tiebreakers are stupid. At least in a division, you play every team in that division. So you know what? Old Dominion, you don't deserve to be in the Sun Belt title game. You lost to James Madison.
You want to know my case for divisions are bad?
Sure.
I got a question for you. How long has Texas A&M been in the SEC?
Since 2011.
14 years. How many times in that 14 years has the University of Georgia played Texas A&M in College Station?
0.
That's why divisions are bad.
I get that argument, but we're also complaining about tiebreakers here too. Reason you have tiebreakers because you don't have divisions.
I didn't make a slide for it, but maybe we'll talk about Spencer's perfect tiebreakers at some point because it's easy and everyone makes it stupid. And I'm raging.
At number 31. Oh, wait, another G5 team. South Florida. They annihilate Rice 52-3. And they lose their head coach to Auburn, which I think is a good hire.
We saw four American head coaches get hired by SEC?
Yep,
Yeah.
Golish, Silverfield,
So the
Summerall,
SEC just
Morris.
becoming the old American.
What's the Sun Belt called? The
mini SEC.
Yeah, we got to rebrand here.
Yeah,
Sun
because
Belt-
it seems like they're just plucking from the American, not
the Sun Belt is no longer the mini SEC. The American is the mini SEC, and it is the farm league for the SEC.
Promotion relegation, man. Can't
how you
wait
do
till
it.
we get to that eventually.
At number 30, Pitt. They slide 8 spots after losing to Miami at home. Tough way for them to end the year. But they had a great season, all things considered, with a true freshman quarterback.
And our model doesn't agree because our model rates Notre Dame a fair amount higher than Miami, which no one should be surprised by if they've seen anything we've put out. But it's worth noting that those were 2 road games, and Miami won more convincingly than Notre Dame did.
Miami playing better as of late.
Yeah, Jacob, wait, whoa. We've had a lot of Miami hate for them not playing outside of the state of Florida, and they crush Pitt. I want to hear a little more love sent the Hurricanes
You
way.
know what? Maybe Pitt's not as good as we thought they were.
All right, we're
Excuses.
incapable. Moving on. At number 29, Iowa State. They finished the year 8-4, and what, Jacob? Nobody cares.
No one cares. But Matt Campbell remains in Iowa State. There's been a lot of rumor about him possibly going to Arkansas and other job openings. I wonder if honestly, I don't know why Penn State isn't going after him because
That's a good fit.
what he's done at Iowa State was trash. They were nobody before he came. He's come. They are a respected program.
State College might be a step up from Ames. Sorry, Ames.
Honestly, it would be a good fit. I think Matt Campbell would be great at Penn State.
That's a great point.
I want to take this moment real quick to talk about Oklahoma State, though. They lost this game 20-13. So here is their point differentials. They lost every game in league play. And here are the points they lost it by. So trajectory here. They lost to Baylor by 18, lost to Arizona by 28, lost to Houston by 22, lost to Cincinnati by 32, lost to Texas Tech, got blanked 42-0. And then the trend starts to come back down. You lose to Kansas by 17, Kansas State by 8, UCF by 3, and Iowa State by 7. So this is a team that as soon as they started spinning those shirts and dressing up as bananas, the players got back into it and they fought in these games. Those were all losses, yes, but those were hard-fought losses. The combined margin of loss in the last game was like what all of the margins of loss were in all the games prior.
And don't forget about the wigs.
Oh, yeah, and the wigs, the bananas, the wigs, the shirtless dudes.
We love you, Oklahoma State. And we do think hiring Eric Morris was a good hire. I think he's going to do great at Oklahoma State. It's going to be
Gonna kill it.
exciting.
That was the best of all the coaches plucked from the American. The best one, in my opinion, went to the Big 12, not the SEC.
Speaking of the American, at number 28, Tulane. Blank Charlotte 27-0. They host the American Championship game. We've talked about what a travesty that is because the American outsources their tiebreakers to the College Football Playoff Committee, who does not know a darn thing about ranking G5 teams, but Tulane gets the break.
You know who's wishing they had American tiebreakers right now, though?
The ACC.
The ACC.
Yeah, very much so.
Because then it would be Virginia, Miami.
Yeah, they do.
So
That's
at
true.
least the American is gaming the committee.
Right.
To try to-
The power conferences, that's a good tiebreaker. I agree, though. The committee knows nothing about G5 teams, as manifested by 24 being like what their designated G5 spot right now.
Yeah,
Oh my
it seems to
gosh.
be the designated
3 weeks in a
spot.
row or 4 maybe.
I think it might be more. It was like South Florida, and then Memphis replaced them.
Yeah,
and
that's
now
right.
it's
That's right.
Tulane.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh shoot, we're at 24. Let's add a G5 team in.
We
Quick.
got to put a different one in. Yeah,
We don't want them at 25.
No, we don't want
Yeah.
2 in.
No, well, we don't want to look like we just put them at the end, so put them up one more spot. Just 24. At number 27, Missouri. The only thing that needs to be known about Missouri is they retain their head coach, and that is all Missouri wanted.
I mean, if you're Drink, this is good timing because now what does it matter how good you are? You got paid. The SEC's only going to get tougher, which is hard to imagine about already the toughest conference out there. But
Absolutely. At 26, all right, Jacob, here are your New Mexico Lobos, the
There's a
highest
knife in my heart.
ranked and rated Mountain West team in the S&D 50 to close the season, and they don't even sniff the title game.
It hurts so badly, and I hurt for the Lobo fans out there. They've been living in misery for so long. This fan base deserves a chance at a Mountain West Conference title. They've earned it this year. Jason Eck is the man who they just re-signed, put him under contract today. How amazing is that? But they're not going to be playing for a title game, luckily. The Mountain West honestly looks like it was going to get easier next year with a lot of teams departing for the Pac-12, so I give them a great shot to win it next year.
And they stormed the field at the end of that San Diego State game. The fans, the players, the turquoise uniforms looked so good on display. It's not like they played the second best team in the Mountain West and won and got snubbed, was it? Oh, wait, it was. Gosh dang. What a sad ending for New Mexico.
I really regretting that loss to Boise State.
At number 25, Tennessee. They get crushed by Vanderbilt. It's amazing to see them here at 25. Their 8 wins are really propping them up, but they haven't played the same schedule, it feels, that the rest of the SEC played.
Played 8 medium teams and beat them. Medium to bad, I should say. They played 4 good teams and lost to all of them by varying degrees. They played some teams close, but they lost all those games. And you want to know something interesting, though? Credit to the Cover 3 podcast for this. Is before Josh Heupel got hired as the coach for like however many years since 2000, Tennessee only had 1 8-4 season.
Yeah, don't hate on Josh Heupel. He does a good job. That is the takeaway here. The least they
Right.
win the 8, they should win.
Right, and this is really the model, giving them credit for losing the games they lost in relatively close fashion. Like they slip here. They should have beat Georgia. They could have beat Alabama, but I mean they're 8-4, not 10-2, so they're not playoff bound this year.
Joey Aguilar is 313 yards away from becoming the all-time season passing yards leader at Tennessee.
Postseason counts.
Yeah, bowl game does count.
That's doable.
It is doable, so there's something to hang your hat on, Volunteer fans.
At number 24, the Heart Attack Hawkeyes don't make us sweat. They crush Nebraska 40-16 at Nebraska.
It's a good win for Iowa. They're a really good 8-4 team. I would love to see them actually ranked like we have them in our top 25. I'd love to see them show up in the committee's final top 25 before the conference title games. But I don't know whether they will. We'll see.
Number 23, Arizona. This just feels right. This is a 9-3 Big 12 team that feels like they should be here at 23. They beat Arizona State in a thriller, like Spencer mentioned, and they're humming. They're humming to end the year.
And they are one double overtime loss to BYU away from being in the Big 12 championship. Had they won that game, they would have been in the Big 12 championship.
That's wild.
That's wild to think about.
And no one would have talked about them or cared.
But we give them credit here.
They're that good of a team. So, Brett Brennan, Arizona, look out next year.
At number 22, TCU has bounced around more than any team I can think of in the 50 this year. They get to 22. They're up 12 spots. They crush Cincinnati. And TCU's good.
Yeah. I mean, they've been on a tear since losing to BYU. That win against Cincinnati is extremely impressive.
At number 21, Navy. Now this is sad. Great win against Memphis, but they have nothing to show for it. No American Conference title game appearance on the horizon. They do have the Army game, but this is a season of what could have been for Navy.
Navy needs to stop playing Army in mid-December and start playing them before conference title weekend if they ever want to be taken seriously. I understand it counts as a non-conference game, even though they're in the same conference now. But like, how atrocious would that be to win the American? And let's say a situation where you've got your Power 4 conference titles out there and they win the American, they're 12-0 because they haven't played their 13th game. And maybe they get in over another 12-0 G5 team, but they're a 13-0 G5 team, only to go and lose to Army. Like, the committee doesn't re-rank after Army-Navy. So if Navy ever wants to be taken seriously, they need to fix that, or else they're not going to be ranked high enough to make it into the playoffs unless there's such a distinction, such a cushion for them that even a loss to Army is not going to throw things off for the committee.
But it's tradition, Spencer. Navy Army plays the week after championship Saturday because that's the only game going on and the whole country tunes in.
I mean, do they?
I know people who don't even watch college football but watch that game. Maybe that's
Wild
the
to
people
me.
that tune in. Now, one last thing on Navy. We saw the top basically 4 or 5 teams in the American outside of Navy all lose their head coaches this week. Navy did not. Continuity means something. Stability does mean something. I truly believe that. So Navy keeps their head coach. They keep their coaching staff. They keep the system in place. Could we see a dominant Navy next year? Time will tell.
Let's hope so.
I'll believe it when I see a dominant triple option from anyone.
Number 20, Virginia. They beat Virginia Tech. They are going to the ACC title game.
And of the 2 people playing in that game, this is the one that makes sense.
At number 19, down 5 spots, Michigan. Michigan loses to Ohio State. The streak is snapped. Poor Michigan. It just doesn't look like they're good enough to compete against the big dogs of the Big Ten.
Yeah, this is not a year where anyone in the Big Ten is able to compete outside of the top 2. That's what this showed to me, because Michigan looked like if they could win, if they could do it again, they could be in the playoffs. They had a really good argument to be the highest ranked 10-2 team, full stop. I mean, they wouldn't because they lost that head-to-head to 10-2 Oklahoma, but they had an argument. They would have had the best win in the country, bar none. But clearly, Ohio State was the better team.
At 18, USC. They beat UCLA. Lincoln Riley finishes the year 9-3.
I do love sometimes how the model, despite the fact that we do not consider head-to-head, which will matter in a minute, the model sometimes just gets it right anyway and stack people right next to each other with comparable records based on how they played over the whole year because it's representative, right? If you beat them in the game, probably over the course of 12 games, it's going to shake out that you're ranked ahead of them anyway, right? That's not always true, but with 2 teams with similar records that have played, I love seeing that work out like this.
At number 17, Vanderbilt up 2 spots. They beat Tennessee. Diego Pavia striking Heisman poses in the end zone. Vanderbilt's had a really good year, and most importantly, they keep Clark Lee.
Big deal. Good to see it too. I love that Vanderbilt did that.
At number 16, North Texas. They lose Eric Morris, but they finish the year 11-1.
In a dead heat with Vanderbilt, by the way. These 2 teams, I mean, they show up as tied on here. Yeah, they are only separated by 0.25. That's all that separates these 2 teams. It is neck and neck.
And I was really curious about North Texas. They were kind of the first ball to drop on the coaching carousel that started all this when Oklahoma State announced they were hiring Eric Morris away, how they would respond before the Temple game and how that game would go. And because Temple's scrappy. I know they're 5-7, finished the year missing a bowl game, but they're scrappy. And North Texas made quick work of Temple. And that made me happy to see the team was keeping it together. And it's going to be fun to see them travel to Tulane for the American Championship.
Cannot wait. At number 15, James Madison. We said it last week. There's a path now for them to make the college football playoff. They take care of business against Coastal Carolina, to say the least. They get Troy, which is a very favorable matchup. We'll cover that later.
Spencer, we were talking last week about this with James Madison, and even if, like, say, SMU and Virginia faced each other, one of them would most likely jump James Madison because that kind of win, along with the other ACC win, would be more impressive. I'm just giving you guys a few numbers of why James Madison should be in the playoffs. When comparing James Madison to Tulane, North Texas, Duke, and Virginia, they have the highest strength of record, the highest ranked FPI team, most wins against bowl-eligible teams. They're ranked 19th in the AP, 19th in the coaches, and here they are, 22.5-point favorites over Troy in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. This is a travesty. This team deserves to be ranked. Stop the conspiracy. Stop it. College Football Playoff Committee, rank this team now before it's too late.
At number 14, up 3 spots, Miami. They beat Pitt. They are in the S&D 50 on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoff.
Here's my ludicrous take. This is my the committee rigs it all shamelessly take. The committee currently has already said that they've evaluated Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU, and Miami together. That's 9, 10, 11, and 12. I would not consider it all that much of a shock. It would shock everyone but me, I should say, if the committee does that again and says, you know what, we should put Miami above Notre Dame. And instead of moving Notre Dame down, we're going to move Miami up. And Miami, on the back of this win, jumps not 1, not 2, but 3 spots to number 9. Can you imagine?
I don't think they're going to do that, but I see them jumping BYU this week. I think they're just hoping that some conference championship losses. Okay, they jump BYU this week. Now they're at 11. Alabama loses to Georgia. They bump Miami up past Alabama from the conference championship game. Boom. Now Miami's in.
It gets
Then
gross.
maybe Miami's next to Notre Dame. Boom. All of a sudden Miami gets in front of Notre Dame out of nowhere because of the head-to-head.
Nah,
That's
that
fine.
Alabama one I don't agree with, but we'll get to that when we talk about Bama in like 1 second.
The dichotomy of James Madison next to Miami is the tale of 2 different favorabilities with the committee, and I love them right here next to each other.
You'll notice there's a big gap right there, though. Our ratings go from 57-44 to 58-73. There is a big, big gap between Miami at 14 and James Madison at 15.
At number 13, Alabama squeaks out a win against Auburn. Kalen DeBoer stays at Alabama, even though where was he going? And Alabama makes it to the SEC title game.
I think that Alabama's in the playoffs. I know that we don't have them there. We have them at 13. They're at 10 right now. That's in the field. Unless they get past this week by Miami or BYU, which are the 2 teams behind them that both won, which feels unlikely, I think they're in because the committee will not punish the SEC runner-up. The SEC literally holds the committee in the palm of their hand alongside the Big Ten. There's not a snowball's chance that Alabama drops all the way out of the playoff if they lose to Georgia.
I like Alabama's grittiness. I like the way they can hang in these close games and just gut out wins. It's good to see it. Now, how they'll do in the playoff, I don't know. But it's been great to see them be so gritty this year.
So, Spencer, if your scenario is true and Miami passes Alabama in the committee's eyes this week, that means Alabama's in a must-win against Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If Alabama ends up out of the top 10, then it's a win and you're in, lose and you're out situation because they're out of the field. Because the field is 10 in a situation where 2 conference games include people outside of the top 12. No one in any of the G5, and no one in the ACC title game is in the committee's top 12. So that means 11 and 12 are for those two champions. So the field is 10. Alabama and BYU could both find themselves in a win to get in situation.
At number 12, Oklahoma. They beat LSU 17-13. The offense of Oklahoma still not inspiring confidence in the faithful of the Sooners.
Why them? Because their win over Michigan? 12 is appropriate. Your 12 is appropriate for Oklahoma. 8 is not, as the committee has them.
Yeah, I think that 8's too high and 12 is right. I agree.
At number 11, a team not getting enough credit from the College Football Playoff Committee, Utah. They beat Kansas 31-21. They currently sit, as of today, December 1st, at number 13 in the College Football Playoff rankings.
Yeah, they needed chaos to make the playoff as an at-large, or they needed Arizona State to win and then some Big 12 chaos to make that title game. They're going to be probably the best team to not make a conference title game or the playoffs.
Great year for Kyle Whittingham, despite all of that.
Future is bright with Bird.
Absolutely. Texas at 10. Note we haven't seen Texas A&M yet. Oh, controversy. But Texas is here at 10. This show has not bagged on Arch Manning. We held out judgment, and what do you know? Arch Manning wins a huge game against Texas A&M at home.
I mean, I'll admit, I was high on Arch Manning early in the year. I bailed on him a little bit at around the Kentucky-Mississippi State games. Except for that, quarter and a half against Georgia, they have been a top 10 team.
And at number 10 in the SND, if the playoff committee went by the SND rankings, by results-based data, Texas would be in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad about it. I know they're 9-3, and I know that everyone sees the win-loss record, and it's easy to get upset about that. But Texas has had some really good wins, and Texas A&M is a great win to end the season.
I mean, yeah, the Florida loss isn't great, but they have 2 losses to 2 top 5 teams. That's both AP, CFP, and our model. And then wins against another top 10 team, another top 20 team, another top 20 team. Like, this is a team that played a really tough schedule. They're probably out of the playoffs because of that Florida loss, even with all of the other stuff going on, because that Florida loss is the worst loss. Let's say the committee decides not to penalize them for that Ohio State loss. The Florida loss is still pretty much the worst loss in that 10-2 grouping, especially when you have to go up against like Notre Dame, who, yes, they lost to Texas A&M, but they didn't lose to Florida. Or Oklahoma, who, yes, they lost to Texas, but they didn't lose to Florida. So it's a tricky situation to be in.
At number 9, oh my gosh, Texas A&M ahead of Texas, Spencer. What's going on?
Well, funnily, we actually have these two closer than pretty much everyone else, because most people won't push Texas into the top 10, and most people won't drop Texas A&M out of the top 7 or so. But what's going on is the gap was so big that even the win didn't close it for Texas. It wasn't a blowout. It was a super competitive game down to the very end. Texas A&M, obviously 2 scores. They didn't really have a chance in the waning minutes, but fourth quarter, they still could have had it. This was definitely a winnable game. They didn't lose as many points as they would have if Texas had really pulled away late, and they still kept their spot above them.
At number 8, Texas Tech. They beat West Virginia 49-0. 8 is an interesting number because at number 7, one of our spiciest controversies of this week, BYU jumps Texas Tech to number 7. They beat UCF 41-21. Spencer, what the heck is going on here?
What the heck is going on here is that since losing to Texas Tech, BYU's 3 wins are against 2 teams that have been ranked and rated really highly nationally in TCU and Cincinnati, and against a UCF team that was fighting for bowl eligibility. On the flip side of that, since beating BYU, Texas Tech's 3 wins have been that same UCF team, and an atrocious West Virginia team, and a bye week. You don't get any credit for a bye week. They've only had 2 data points. BYU's had 3 to catch up. And BYU's played a stronger record overall than Texas Tech has despite the head-to-head, because our model, famously, does not consider head-to-head. It just considers your rating.
And what you're seeing here, which I find fascinating, you're seeing 2 one-loss Big 12 teams ahead of a one-loss SEC team.
Oh my gosh, burn it down. This model's broken. At number 6, Ole Miss. We said it last week. The football team is the number one thing not being talked about at Ole Miss. The trend continues. Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, but Ole Miss, 11-1, loses in a close game to Georgia. They very well could be a top 3 team in this model. Ole Miss has had quite the year.
I liked what Ole Miss did when Lane Kiffin left. They wasted no time, not only naming an intern, but just going ahead and naming him the permanent head coach. They promoted the defensive coordinator, Pete Golding. I think at a time like this where they're getting ready for the playoffs and honestly have a shot to win a national title, you just got to make an aggressive move like that, which they did, and I hope it works out for them.
At number 5, Georgia. If you've been watching this show for a while, it's finally happened. Georgia jumps Ole Miss.
Back of an impressive, if low-scoring, Georgia Tech win. But to me, this is Georgia's MO. Georgia feels no need to beat you by 30 when beating you by 7 will do.
And that's why they've moved so slowly up the SND model. It's been kind of a slow climb up to the top for Georgia, but they haven't won in blowouts, but they just keep winning. So in the end, they are being rewarded.
At number 4, up 3 spots, the Oregon Ducks finished the year 11-1, beat Washington, and look like they will host a playoff game.
Yeah, I think they're probably a lock for the 6th seed, is my guess. I think the 5 seed goes to either Texas Tech if they win the Big 12 or the SEC runner-up. I really think Alabama could jump all the way there, even if they lose. I think Oregon is going to be either the 5 or 6 seed. It's a really good team.
At number 3, people do not like this.
I am just waiting for Notre Dame to go on a deep playoff run. I think the model's onto something. I think this team is good, whether you like it or not. Everyone says they shouldn't be in the playoffs, that their schedule's been cupcakes. No, they've proven themselves. They're here. They're going to make a run, and they're going to prove all these haters wrong.
Yeah, let me list off some teams with a lower strength of schedule metric than Notre Dame. Miami, Indiana, Ohio State, Utah, Texas Tech, Georgia Tech. This is a team that played a good schedule against good teams overall, and when they lost incredibly close. Really, games that could have been a coin flip just went not their way, but when they won, they've been blowing people out of the water.
That's the team I do not want to face in the first round. Whoever gets them in the first round, just chalk up an L. Don't even bother to show up.
And the funny thing is they're probably going to be a road team.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. They're going to go into somebody's house and just make quick work of them.
Lay waste to them. At number 2, Indiana, 12-0. They crush Purdue. They leave no doubt of who wins the Old Oaken Bucket. And they're getting ready for Ohio State.
I mean, this is the marquee matchup. 1 versus 2. Because we know who's coming up next. It's Ohio State.
Ohio State at 1. They beat Michigan. They exercised their demons against the Wolverines. And now I don't know what stands in the way between Ohio State and a natty.
I think Ohio State and Indiana should get the 1 and the 2 for the playoffs, regardless of how this game finishes. The winner should get the 1. The runner-up should get the 2. The 2 will probably go to the SEC winner if it's Georgia. But I think it should be Ohio State, Indiana, or Indiana, Ohio State.
That wraps up the 50. Let's get into our favorite things to look at, starting with the conference index. This week, we've had more shuffling in the top 50 teams per conference than we've seen all year. The Big 10 and Big 12 both finish at 9 teams apiece in the 50. The ACC gets 8 in. The American goes down to 4. Sun Belt gets in 2. And the MAC gets in 2 teams to close out the year. Who saw that coming?
Been zeros all year long. Slide 2 in. And one of them is guaranteed to stay because they don't play in the conference title game.
And Jacob, your favorite part, the Big 10 and Big 12 neck and neck to finish the year.
10-point difference. We need to this needs to be shown to the College Football Playoff Committee. The Big 12 is basically just as good as the Big 10. This is not a one-bid league. Give them 2 at least. The Big 12 is deserving. Honestly, we see 3 teams that look like they could be deserving from the Big 12, according to the SND. But there's not even a sniff right now for that third, which is in Utah. It's just a travesty how the Big 12 is being treated.
I just needed a little more chaos.
Week 15 conference quads. Oh my gosh. The Big 10A, though the Big 10 and Big 12, Jacob, are close in total average rating, the Big 10A is the cream of the crop to finish the season.
And we have 2 groups sliding in at the bottom, knocking out the SEC C group for the first time all year, or at least first time since we started tracking this. The Sunbelt A and the Mountain West A, knocking the SEC C group out of the conference quads.
Teams I love in here. Texas finishing in the SEC A group. How about it? TCU finishing in the Big 12A group. Amazing. Clemson in the ACC A group, and Penn State in the Big 10 B group.
Yeah, Clemson beating South Carolina as part of what did the SEC C group in 2 quads that are just outside. The 3 quads that miss are the ACC B quad, the SEC C quad, and then finally the MAC A quad, checking in at 13th, just outside of our top 10.
Our Week 15 playoff picture. If the playoff was to happen today and the S&D 50 was the sole determiner of the playoff, here's how it would shake out.
Oh my gosh, how about Texas Tech hosting Texas A&M in an opening round game? That would be epic.
That's a dream. That is a dream come true.
Electric.
For college football.
And James Madison on the road at Ole Miss. I mean, that's a game James Madison could win.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I like it. I like their chances in that kind of game.
And BYU hosting Texas. Come on now.
Gosh, makes me think back to the Taysom Hill days when they played Texas.
Well,
Bear
not only
versus
that,
Arch.
Sark was a BYU quarterback heading back home.
Oh, yeah, Sark headed back home. Oh, man.
It would be
The
great.
drama.
Oregon gets the 4 seed. Notre Dame the 3 seed. It's great.
Now, obviously, this wouldn't happen because SEC's got to play a conference title game. Big 12's got to play a conference title game, but it's so cool to see how this would shake out.
The S&D Group of 5 Top 25 Week 15 edition. There is the tragedies at the top. Navy and New Mexico finishing number 3 and number 4 and don't get a play for their title game in their respective conferences.
But wouldn't it be cool, Jacob, if the G5 had their own playoff?
Yes, then these rankings would actually mean something.
Well, you're in luck. We've put together for all those at home who've been curious this whole time, what does a 12-team playoff look like with conference championship bids for the top 5 ranked conference champions in the G5? Well, here's what it would look like.
Oh, my goodness. This is a dream come true here. Looking at the first round matchups, Western Michigan gets in as the MAC champion and the 11 seed going to South Florida. Woo-wee. The MAC getting in 2 teams, actually. Toledo sneaks in that last spot. They get the 12 seed. They would face Tulane. I'm sure Mountain West fans would be irate because they only have 2 teams in and they see themselves as much superior to the MAC. But the Mountain West would get in New Mexico and UNLV as what should be the conference title game there. But boy, what a fun playoff this would be. And we were talking a little bit about playoff pictures and honestly, guys, I feel I've hinted at this before. I feel we are eventually headed to a separation of powers where the P4 and the G5, what's soon to be G6 when the Pac-12 becomes official again, separate from each other. And if the playoffs don't expand, and they do away with that automatic bid for the G5, which it seems like there's a lot of talk about, which I do not understand. I feel the G5 should go a route like this and create their own playoff system, because the system is stacked against you. It's two separate levels at that point. Create a new division, become the G5 division, and give us something like this to where the G5s can have something to play for.
What's so sad to me is New Mexico would get a bye in this playoff, not playing for their conference championship. Boise State is on the outside looking in, hosting their conference championship. Navy, not playing for their conference championship, would have a bye. And North Texas would be the 2 seed, not hosting their conference title game. It's absurd. And Old Dominion, not playing for a conference title game, but hosting a playoff game. Conference championship previews.
That's how we're going to end it today. Instead of our games to watch, where we give you the most competitive games, we're going to give you all 9 conference title games, from the least close rating to the sicko game of the week, which is our conference championship, where the 2 teams are rated the closest. So we're going to kick it off with that Troy James Madison matchup. Now you can see here, there are 3 other teams in the Sun Belt ranked higher than Troy who did not make this title game. So this is not the best matchup. Very low playoff implications here. James Madison winning could open the conversation if Duke wins the ACC. So there are some implications, because Troy would absolutely be a spoiler for the Sun Belt if they pull off this upset.
James Madison opened up as 22.5-point favorites over Troy. This is a game where James Madison needs style points. With Duke being a possible ACC champ, they need a win by that 3 scores and maybe even more. So I'm looking for the Dukes to just run wild in this game.
The ACC championship game somehow includes a completely unranked and under the radar Duke team with 5 losses against Virginia, neither of whom are the top rated team that we have. You know, we've got Miami rated higher than Virginia. We've got Pitt and Clemson both rated higher than Duke. Clemson has more conference losses, and we still have them rated higher than Duke. But here's what I'll say. Take a look at Duke's worst loss of its 5. That's the number 50 team. That means all 5 of Duke's losses are against teams in the S&D 50. This is a team that didn't play a cupcake schedule. They have wins that matter. Their best win is against NC State, who beat Virginia. Their second best win, is against NC State. NC State beat Virginia in a game that for some reason doesn't count as a conference game, and it's the only reason Virginia's in this to begin with, is because that loss didn't count because it was a non-conference game against a conference opponent. I mean, the ACC is just messy, messy, messy. The playoff implications here are insane if Duke upsets Virginia.
Whatever the committee does tonight will dictate what this looks like with a winner.
I really hope they don't rank Duke. That would be so upsetting to me. The American, it's getting more competitive. We've got a rating gap of only 276 between number 16 in North Texas on the road, having to go to Yulman Stadium in New Orleans to play what we have is number 28, Tulane. And again, we've talked about it before, that atrocity. You see it there in our top conference teams. Navy not making this game. But the playoff implications are high here. The winner is in the CFP. In the Mountain West, with almost an identical rating difference, we've got number 33 UNLV at number 49 Boise State because of convoluted tiebreakers. But not making it is New Mexico. We've already talked about how atrocious this is, but it's worth noting that New Mexico actually beat UNLV already this year on the road. The only reason they're not in this game is because they lost at Boise State on the Smurf turf by 3 scores. Was not a good showing for New Mexico, but that loss is truly the reason that they're out of this game right now.
That loss was the turning point for New Mexico, where they really started to turn their season around. But UNLV and Boise, this is a rematch from earlier this year where Boise State won. This is a rematch from last year's Mountain West Conference title game. It was the same thing, Boise hosting UNLV. It's kind of becoming a rivalry in the Mountain West, and this will be their last time meeting each other for who knows how long, as UNLV stays in the Mountain West and Boise moves on to the Pac-12.
That's probably going to be a UNLV New Mexico affair for a while.
Yeah.
Now the SEC comes next as we get lower in our S&D rating difference, with 230.3 points separating our number 5 team Georgia against our number 13 team Alabama. Alabama, who, while this is a neutral site game, is technically the home team here. But take a look at our top conference teams here, and who do you notice is not included? It's Alabama. Our S&D ratings have Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma, all with better ratings than the Alabama team that's about to go play for the SEC title game. Down to a rating gap of 189.9 in the MAC, we've got Miami, not of Florida, taking on the Western Michigan Broncos at Ford Field, a neutral site game. Miami's already beaten Western Michigan this year. That's their best win so far of the season. So this is another rematch. We talked about Toledo missing out on rematching and trying to beat Western Michigan. Miami's already done it. They just have to do it again. In Conference USA, we have Kennesaw State taking on Jacksonville State. This is one of the instances where the top 2 rated teams are actually playing in the conference title game. No divisions to screw this up. Just downright top teams playing for the conference title. Jacksonville's best win is actually against Kennesaw. Kennesaw's best win is against Florida International, which is the next highest rated team in the conference. It's going to be fun to see this rematch play out on Friday night.
Yeah, the first matchup was pretty dang close and had some wild plays go down in it. It was a fun one to watch. This will be another good one. It hosted earlier in the year, so Kennesaw traveling to Jack State again. I do kind of put my chips more in Jacksonville State side. They're the defending Conference USA champs, and if they're hosting the game, I do give them the edge over Kennesaw, even though Kennesaw is the higher rated team.
Where you have the top 2 teams, you have the smaller rating gaps. So our next one is the Big Ten, with Ohio State and Indiana 1 and 2 overall, 1 and 2 in the conference, 113.5 separating their ratings, which is a big gap because Ohio State has played that well. But Indiana, with undeniably the best win in the country against a number 4 Oregon team that hasn't lost to anyone else. Ohio State, that win against Texas has aged like fine wine.
I cannot wait for this game. This one, though it's not the sicko game of the week, this is the game that I will be locked on Saturday night.
That brings us to the sicko game of the week in Arlington, AT&T Stadium, noon Eastern on Saturday. December 6th is BYU and Texas Tech rematching with a rating difference of just 22.1. And that's so close that that's effectively even, right? We have BYU at 7 and Texas Tech at 8. You could call it a fluke of the model. Like, these 2 teams played really good years. BYU should be a playoff team, even if they lose this game. They won't be, though. This is a win and you're in, lose and you're out situation for the Cougars. And with everything going on now with their coach and conversations with Penn State, this is a weird and tricky situation to be in.
And this game in particular, sicko game of the week with the rating difference. Texas Tech annihilated BYU at home earlier in the season, and it's real interesting to see BYU ranked just above Texas Tech, basically saying these 2 teams are level in resume. So I'm excited to see if on a neutral field, if BYU can surprise some people and give Texas Tech more of a run for their money here. And honestly, looking at this, according to the S&D, BYU should be solidly in the playoffs, whether they win or lose. We know that's not how the committee sees it, so BYU looking to cause a little bit of chaos and steal a spot by beating Tech.
Yeah, everyone out there in the media is calling them a bid thief. I actually love that term. It's a great term here. But if BYU wins, who do you knock out? Like, serious question. Last question of the show. Who do you cut from the teams currently in the field if number 11 BYU wins? Because you don't cut out Texas Tech. Do you cut out Alabama if they lose since they were in the 10 spot? Or are you forced to cut out like Notre Dame?
It gets messy really quick. I'm not sure what the committee will do, honestly.
That's kind of why I think the committee might rank Miami at 9 and Notre Dame at 10 and Alabama at 11 and BYU at 12 this week, because it makes both the BYU Alabama games, winning you're in, losing you're out, and it puts Miami and Notre Dame in order, but puts both of them on a chopping block. And that's fun, clear football. I like that a lot, but they won't do it. I wish they would, though.
Well, that wraps up our pod for this week. Spencer, thank you for putting all the graphics together. Amazing work as per usual.
Thank you, Drew, for the help. Thank you, Jacob, for the insights. Thanks to Ben for joining us this week. This is a good show. Excited for conference championship week.
And we want to thank each and every one of you who've watched any of our videos this season. We appreciate it so much. Your kind comments make our day. We love making this model and sharing it with you. We love that this is something that you find important. Share this with a friend. If you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed. We'll keep bringing content to you all year long, even after the season ends. And we hope you have a great week. Enjoy these conference championship games.
Bye.